Scholarships are vital, but scholarships are open for everyone.
There are some scholarships, a number of scholarships that are out there specifically designed and tailored to Indigenous students. And some people might think that that means that they're excluded from that pot of money that they all wish they could be part of. But the reality is these scholarships are designed and tailored for us because we have it tougher in a lot of ways. Our graduation rate is a lot less than our non-Indigenous counterparts. Any tiny bit of stress that can be taken away from an Indigenous student that might help them get through their medical degree really is invaluable.
I had a couple of scholarships during medical school and they were all broadly available scholarships. So one of them was a rural student scholarship, not specifically for Aboriginal students at all, and the other one was just a general medical student scholarship.
Scholarships, yeah, sure. I had a scholarship. I had a couple of scholarships, but I think that they are scholarships that are designed to encourage and entice people who are from a disadvantaged background into tertiary education who otherwise would not have been able to afford to attend university. So I had some financial assistance from a couple of different lovely organisations, and that was a competitive process the way non-Indigenous people apply for scholarships.
I had one scholarship.
I got a rural health scholarship, which meant that I had bonded rural service on completion of my undergraduate degree, which was available to all students. It wasn't Indigenous specific, yet I had to frequently respond to the fact that I must have gotten something special in order to achieve what I have achieved. Now, what does that tell us about non-Indigenous imaginings of Indigenous peoples? That we can't possibly do anything worthwhile without getting extra assistance, because we must be less than. We mustn't be as smart as capable as.
The financial benefit of being a student, or an Aboriginal student doing medicine, I thought there'd be more, but there isn't. When I first applied, I got the rural bonded scholarship, and then I had a big car accident, so deferred for a year before I started. And then I was told, oh, you'd get it. I'd get that, that'd carry over with me, but then when it came to enrolling and going in the next year, said, oh, sorry, you don't get it. So that kind of stuffed things up. So then there was a few other scholarships that go around, but you know, the Marbo one is one that I got, and the Puggy Hunter as well.
I had 4 kids, and so that really, it was a minor scholarship, and it didn't really provide what I needed to support my family. I still had to, I had a husband who was working, but you know, that was a minimal wage as well. There are scholarships out there, but there are scholarships out there for every medical student, every student who goes to university. You need to apply like everyone else, and you need to know where to search.
It's an interesting question that people ask about our access to special privileges such as scholarships. In actual fact, we probably get about the same amount of scholarships as access as anybody else. We're just a much smaller population, so it's actually easier to access in some ways. But having said that, there's a whole lot of things that most Aboriginal people are disadvantaged in Australia, and that's kind of 3 levels, probably socially, culturally and financially disadvantaged. So it doesn't matter whether you look at remote or urban, there's still quite a big deficit in income between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people in Australia. So these scholarships are sometimes the only way that somebody can get into an institution.
Indigenous people everywhere in this country, regardless of the med students or health science students, are often forced to answer questions about financial benefits and entitlements. And what intrigues me is non-Indigenous people's fascination with the privileges that Indigenous people supposedly enjoy, while remaining completely indifferent to the disadvantage that Indigenous people continue to suffer.
You think about why would you do a scholarship? You know, what are you trying to achieve there? And really, you know, most of these scholarships are about helping people achieve equity in some kind of place, you know. And if you think about how our people have been denied education, or certainly good quality education over the years. I think that's really important. I think a lot of people don't know that not till too long ago, if I was an Aboriginal boy in a class and one of the other students who was non-Indigenous parents didn't like me for some reason, they could demand that the principal remove me from the school. That's not that long ago.
What I will say is that there was never any free money. I worked my backside off to make sure that I was able to afford to buy my stethoscope, buy my textbooks, buy my fancy hospital clothes. That was really important to me. But I also worked a job where I knew that I was taking care of students that were more junior to me and working with them to make sure that I was getting career satisfaction, but they were getting something out of it as well. Free money never existed. I worked for it just like everybody else.
So I find it really interesting, the conversations about special benefits. I wasn't a beneficiary of those special benefits coming through university. I was the first in my family to go to university. I paid my own way through university and I worked part-time. So I find having to answer those questions deeply offensive.
So I don't think it's a unique thing for Aboriginal people, but I do think that the scholarships out there provide us with an opportunity to continue to study medicine and not worry about that financial burden. A lot of Aboriginal students are mature age students coming into medicine who've been working before, so they've had to make a big decision to stop work and then to become a student, and that decreases your income dramatically. And there are also sometimes, you know, with Aboriginal families, you're the only one working, and so you're supporting that wider family, that larger family. So when you make a decision to go into study, then you're making a decision that impacts on that broader family as well.
So I guess the argument there, you know, is like I'm going to get as much money as I possibly can because I've got mouths to feed. Whereas, you know, I usually shut up a lot of the other students because they don't have kids, so they didn't really have to, you know what it's like to deal with that sort of thing.
Certainly we have, on average, a lot less support financially from home. On average, the weekly income for Indigenous households is 40% less than non-Indigenous households. So really we have to stand as students on our own 2 feet. And I think that if it's just a simple scholarship that can make the difference between an Aboriginal or a Torres Strait Islander student gaining a degree and not being able to study higher education at all, then really that's fantastic.
Indigenous scholarships in general are an affirmative action program to level the playing field. So while I appreciate that not everybody gets a scholarship, I got scholarships based on merit.
So these scholarships are sometimes the only way that somebody can get into an institution and do okay, get enough resources to actually live, survive, eat, buy, you know, computers and things like that. So they're a fantastic thing, and we do have access to some of those. Having said that, a lot of them are not big scholarships. They're small scholarships. They're enough to get you through a couple of years, but not very many will last the full length of a medical course. And the other thing that you've got to understand is that other people come in with some fairly significant financial advantage into medical schools particularly, and you often find generational students in there, so whose parents, grandparents have been doctors, etc. So they come from backgrounds that actually really support them in this sense. For me, for instance, I got AB study, that was it. And I don't remember my aunties and uncles sending me money to help me get through because they were proud of me. But we're talking about $15 here and there, which was big for them because they were pensioners. But still, you know, the meaning was there that, we needed scholarships, and we had people who would support us if they had enough money to support us, but we didn't have that. So scholarships are a really important thing for us, and that they do help people get through.
So our access to education, to Western style education, has been inhibited at many ways, you know, along the path. So it's not unreasonable to expect that many of us might not have achieved the same kind of education at the same age as those kinds of things. So that's what you want scholarships for, to try to turn that around for people.